This Lieutenant Dan situation is the perfect example of how dangerous internet panhandling can be.
We're here with the real life Lieutenant Dan. Big hurricane coming. What are you gonna say to the hurricane?
You want me? Come and get me.
Yeah.
Anybody. Wind, devil, cops, anybody. Bring it on. I'm ready for you all.
Let's go. He's not leaving, baby.
Right
Don't
here.
give up the
A local college student at the University of Tampa, Terrence, didn't know at the time, but that would be the day his life would change forever. Because he's just walking around filming Tampa because everybody is supposed to be evacuating these danger zones. So he goes to these danger zones to give an update to his TikTok audience at the time, which was very small. Now, while walking around, he comes across this man with a boat. The man's name is Joseph Malawowski, but he affectionately nicknamed him Lieutenant Dan due to the Forrest Gump movie. See, he's seen some similarities. Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump lost his legs and he had a boat. Joseph Malawowski, who we now know as Lieutenant Dan, also was missing one of his legs and had a boat. But this guy refused to evacuate. Even though the police and the mayor and the city was telling everybody to evacuate, he decided he was gonna stay put.
All right, Dan, the people that are new, explain to them why you're deciding to stick out a Category 5, one of the worst hurricanes in Tampa history, out on a 20-foot sailboat in Tampa Harbor.
My faith in God. I don't put my faith in man. God told me to come out here and get a boat. I came out here and got a boat. And everything that he's been telling me over the last 2 days is I'm doing the right thing. He's got my back. I'm in good shape. I ain't sweating it. We're going to ride this one out. We got set up the way we know what we're doing. And as long as the water just keeps rising, we'll be fine.
Will you be wearing a life jacket?
Hell no.
At this particular time, it hasn't really teetered on the side of exploitation yet. This does appear to be a really good kid who just want to do what he thinks is right. So he decided to help Lieutenant Dan. He decided to bring a lot of his friends and people over to help move his boat. Because at this particular time, Lieutenant Dan's boat was in a position where undoubtedly, if it stayed here, he was going to get flooded out and die. So they helped move his boat to a position to where Lieutenant Dan can secure the boat a little bit more, and it'll be in a position where even if the storm does come, he does have a high probability of surviving, and that was the first step in Terrence helping Lieutenant Dan.
Let's go.
All right.
We're moving the boat. Water's rising.
I'll push the boat further away.
Yup. There we go. Let's go. We're buzzing.
This is a wonderful gesture, but at this particular point in time, we could no longer chalk this up to they're just doing this out of the graciousness of their heart. Terrence is a good kid now, but it's at this point, though, it was an equal trade-off, man. You know, helping move the boat, giving him updates, bringing him food, electricity, a new phone, etc., bruh. It was still a trade-off because he was still getting millions of views each and every update. So nonetheless, bruh, they was both helping each other out at this point. I don't want to make it seem like Terrence was just giving charity to Lieutenant Dan because Terrence was still getting something back in return. Look at these views. Terrence is getting 36 million views on videos about Lieutenant Dan. 9.4, 20 million, 6 million, 8 million. Like, yo, every video was almost doing more than 2+ million views about Lieutenant Dan. So yes, Terrence is a great kid and, you know, he is doing whatever he could do to help Lieutenant Dan, but Terrence was also profiting from this as well. But regardless of the views, if Lieutenant Dan would have passed away, it wouldn't have meant nothing. So we do have to give Terrence for doing whatever he had to do to make sure that Lieutenant Dan survived the storm. And Lieutenant Dan did survive the storm.
Lieutenant Dan. I've got you on News Nation. We just wanted to, are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm just getting wet.
He's fine, he's getting wet. Are you concerned when the water comes back in?
I don't know what's going to happen. I'll have to see when it happens. Just hanging in tight, waiting for the water to come in so I can see what I got to do then.
We got the boat here and Lieutenant Dan here. How did it go? How'd the night go?
It was a little rough till about 11:30. I repositioned the boat and I was heading into the wind. And I slept like a baby from 12:30 to 5 o'clock this morning.
And right on schedule, like most times when we find out about a sad internet story of this new internet character get unlocked, the virtual panhandling began. All right, a GoFundMe was started for Lieutenant Dan to help him get on his feet post a hurricane. Now, he didn't lose anything to the hurricane. He still had his boat. He still had the lifestyle he had before the hurricane. But, I guess they wanted to enhance his lifestyle, give him a better way of life. So the GoFundMe was started initially to raise about $100,000, and then it was decreased to about $40,000.
All right, Lieutenant Dan, the people have been asking to set you up a GoFundMe, so that's what I did. The link's in the bio. What do you want to say to everyone that's been supporting you along the way?
I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And if you're starting to GoFundMe, I'm going to tell you what the money is going to be used for. I'm upgrading. I need a bigger boat. I really want something like 35 foot. That was the last boat that I lived on. I only bought this because it was in my price range. I was on Social Security disability. They cut me after 22 years and said I'm no longer disabled. I used to get a check every month. Now I don't get nothing. I have no income. And I'm being blessed every day where, like God says, our daily bread. Every day somebody will give me something so I don't go hungry, and I got everything. It's just, God is good, and you people are all angels. So, you're working for him. He ain't asking for much. Tithe your 10%. Instead of giving it to the church, give it to me.
Awesome, guys. If you want to help out, I put the link in the bio. Let's get Lieutenant Dan a new vessel here and get his sea legs back so we can get to buzzing again. Let's go, baby.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Lieutenant Dan's fortunes were finally changing overnight. Now, Adin Ross, seeing Lieutenant Dan's story, his struggles, about his past addiction, and what he was currently going through, and Adin Ross decided he was going to step in and give Lieutenant Dan an offer of a lifetime. An offer where Lieutenant Dan won't just be able to get by and survive, but he'll be able to be a striving member of society.
We're going to be able to pay for a boat for you. We're going to get you a nice boat in the range of $50,000 to $100,000. And we're going to get you a full-time kick deal, which is a live streaming deal where you can stream your entire voyages and all your adventures. And you can have a passive income come in. And you're going to be, you're going to have a kick deal, man, a live streaming deal. So you could live stream and connect with fans all over the world, and they could really see your adventure, man.
Wow. Thank you.
It's going to be insane.
I mean that from, I don't know what else to say other than thank you. Bless you all.
Almost immediately after Adin Ross offered Lieutenant Dan the deal of a lifetime, people began to post Lieutenant Dan's criminal history. People were calling for Adin Ross to sever his relationship with Lieutenant Dan due to the violent nature of his criminal history. Some assault charges were present. There were rumors that he was also charged with trying to set a woman on fire, which is currently unconfirmed. But people wanted Adin Ross to distance himself from Lieutenant Dan as quick as possible. But Adin Ross wasn't budging. Adin Ross, to his credit, said he don't care about Lieutenant Dan's criminal history and everyone has a past.
Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, first of all. Second of all, I'm allegedly alleged for a lot of shit, bro. Like, look at me, bro.
Even though Adin was straightforward and very clear that he wasn't going to stop working with Lieutenant Dan didn't get the message because internet trolls began to take an out of context clip and began to circulate rumors that Adin Ross had announced that he's done working with Lieutenant Dan, and Lieutenant Dan took the bait. He took the internet rumor mill and believed it instead of contacting Adin Ross directly. So Lieutenant Dan took to social media to go off on Adin Ross for taking away the deal that Adin Ross didn't take away.
About Adin Ross telling you he not getting you a boat no more.
He came to me. I never went to him. He offered it to me. I never asked for it. So then he turned around and he starts seeing about my history. Well, you should have did that before you made the offer. You know, if you're worried about your image and who you have working for you, you should have done your due diligence and looked me up before you made me an offer of $100,000 sign-on bonus and $50,000 a month with a $100,000 boat. And I'm going to let you go because I don't care about that. But I'm going to tell you this.
He took the money away too?
Huh?
He took the $100K?
Took that, as far as I know, everything.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that's the thing. I mean, I didn't ask you for it. You offered it. I agreed to do what you asked me to do. You asked me to be on Kick 100 hours a month. I agreed. I said, no problem. I'll do it. I'm down for that. We agreed, and then all of a sudden, the next thing I see her and see on the internet is how you're disgusted with my history and that deal is done.
So what about your history that disgusts him so bad? Because we all got a history. Nobody closet clean.
Before Lieutenant Dan could burn the bridge completely, Adin Ross got in contact with him to let him know, hey, bro, just so you know, man, the clip you seen and heard, bro, was an out-of-context clip that fans are now circulating, trying to lie and spread rumors, bro, for clickbait. I never said I'm taking away your deal. So he hopped on the phone with Lieutenant Dan. They talked on stream, and they squashed everything, and Adin Ross assured him, bro, we're going to continue with the deal.
3, 2. Yo!
Yo,
Dan!
what's up?
You let the internet get a hold of you, man. I never ever said any of that stuff. It's all fake news.
Okay. That's all right. Good with me. I'm good with you. That's fine. I didn't care.
I know you didn't care. I saw your reaction, but it broke my heart a little bit because it's so easy to manipulate the internet into thinking of a clip. I pulled up a clip.
About it.
Yeah. I pull up a clip, right? I pull up a clip, and I'm like, what? Right after that, I said, I don't care about any of that. I said we all have a past. For one, for two, you open up to me about your past drug addiction and stuff, bro. I would never do that. I would never ever take back what I offered you, bro. We had a good conversation. I even texted your boy Tanner at 4:30 in the morning after the stream ended. I said, "Well, let's have a boat." Does he want? Did he pick out his boat? This is after. This is before all this stuff.
That was actually pretty big and dope of Adin Ross, because a lot of people would have probably seen Lieutenant Dan jump to conclusions like that, bro, and said, man, bro, like, forget you, bro. Like, I'm done with you. And go about their way. Adin Ross don't need to reach down to get clout off of Lieutenant Dan, bro. Adin Ross is a big enough star. So for him to still be as humble to sort of like work things out with Lieutenant Dan, that's pretty amazing, and that's great, right? And they continued with their working relationship. They continued. Now, Lieutenant Dan's first kick stream, though, didn't start off to a pretty hot start. On his first kick stream, Lieutenant Dan let the N-word loose.
All right. But if you want to get back into my good graces, you're going to have to take time. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be hard. Because once I cut you off, you're done, nigga. Sorry. All right. I guess it is. You're done.
He ripped that N-word too casually, man. I can understand if he was like a 20-year-old white kid who grew up in the Bronx around 100K flocks. I can understand how that word is a part of his average day vocabulary. But Lieutenant Dan is old enough to where he didn't really grow up in the hip-hop generation, and he's from Florida. So where is the influences where the N-word is now a part of his everyday vocabulary to where it just slips out casual like that? Like, bro, to say, yo, I'm going to cut you off and bro, that's like a casual way. Like, son, yo, who is he saying the N-word around so casually? Now, maybe it's because Lieutenant Dan has been in jail a couple of times, so maybe, it's the folks in jail who taught him to use the word and who made him comfortable using the word. But still, it's just odd, man. It's very odd. Now, that was the first sign of people saying, okay, maybe a kick deal for Lieutenant Dan isn't the best thing for him. Maybe putting him in front of a camera and having him speak and give his opinion and experiences to a large group of people probably isn't the best thing for him. And that was also the first sign of trouble for Lieutenant Dan, because the person he was speaking about cutting off was actually Terrence. And it shocked a lot of people because Terrence is the reason why we know who Lieutenant Dan is. And Terrence started a GoFundMe for Lieutenant Dan. And Terrence did a lot for Lieutenant Dan to raise awareness for his situation. So the fact that Lieutenant Dan and Terrence were currently in, I guess, a bad spot shocked a lot of people. But a lot of people already seen Lieutenant Dan have a misunderstanding with Adin Ross due to him jumping to conclusions. So a lot of people thought maybe this is a byproduct of Lieutenant Dan jumping to conclusion and having a lot more people around him now running his affairs. So maybe him and Terrence are just having a misunderstanding that will be solved shortly. But things weren't being solved quickly because things were spilling on the internet. Lieutenant Dan then came out and started to chastise Terrence, started to speak about how him and Terrence were having money issues, how he believed Terrence is taking his money and Terrence is doing some shady things.
I want you to know that the kid Terrence that was helping me in videos and did videos, he stole my TikTok account, and he's the only one in control of the GoFundMe page. So he kept always telling me that I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. And now they stole my access from me on my phone because that's a long story. But anyway. Anyway,
Lieutenant Dan would take to TikTok to announce that Terrence has stolen his TikTok account and that he has concerns about the GoFundMe and ever receiving any money from the GoFundMe because Terrence is in complete control of the GoFundMe as well. Now, Lieutenant Dan believes that Terrence stole his TikTok account because apparently Terrence took Lieutenant Dan to the store to get a brand new iPhone out of Terrence's pockets. Now, after Terrence bought the phone for Lieutenant Dan, apparently Terrence took the phone home that night. Now, Lieutenant Dan stated that Terrence took the phone home with him to do some things with the phone, but he was logged in already. And Lieutenant Dan was under the impression that he'll be able to bring the phone home with him that particular night. And he said because Terrence took the phone and he was logged in, Lieutenant Dan said he wasn't able to log in from his other phone. And that's when he freaked out on Terrence for being logged in and he couldn't get logged in. And apparently Lieutenant Dan had an issue with, after Terrence, I guess, took the iPhone home with him, there was a link to the merch, to the Lieutenant Dan's merch that popped up in his TikTok bio. Lieutenant Dan is like, bro, I don't know nothing about no merch. What's going on? And he automatically freaked out. But this right here to me is just, it's a consequence of Lieutenant Dan being involved in shady things his whole life. So when you're involved in shady things, you're also involved in shady characters, and you think everyone is out to get you and everyone is out to scam you, when in fact, maybe Terrence really had his best interest at heart. But because of those things, Lieutenant Dan was completely done with Terrence and was calling out Terrence publicly on TikTok.
Account JC331, that's no longer my account. Any of the merchandise is not my authority. I'm going to put a stop to that shit. And I want everybody to know that that's not a bitch little punk. Better come and see me. Better come and see me. Or else. This is bullshit. I ain't putting up with that. I didn't fucking do nothing to hurt you. I offered to cut you in, and what'd you do? What'd you do? I was gonna cut you in on the whole thing, on everything. And what did I even tell you? I'm blowing up. You see that I'm blowing up. You stealing my shit, so you know I'm blowing up. And what did I tell you? I wanted to take you with me. I wanted you to work with me, work for me, be my manager, because you were supposedly putting all this shit together with Adin Ross. I don't know if that's real. I don't know who the hell Adin Ross is. And if it is, great. If not, oh well, I don't give a okay? You think this worries me? I don't give a shit. I know I'm me. You can't clone me, bitch. All right? And all the pictures and all the videos and shit, that's coming down. I don't care if you made it.
People were seeing a different side of Lieutenant Dan. This wasn't the wholesome Lieutenant Dan that everybody had grown to love, who was wholesome, nonchalant. Lieutenant Dan was cussing up a storm, like making ultimatums, or else even questioning the legitimacy of who Adin Ross was. Lieutenant Dan was apparently paranoid at this point. And it's because, due to being around shady people his entire life, he thought Terrence was trying to cut him out of the GoFundMe money. Not really understanding how these things work, and it being almost impossible for Terrence to cut you out of your GoFundMe money, right? So Lieutenant Dan put this message out there. Now, Terrence decided he was going to handle this like privately. So he pulled up on Lieutenant Dan, and the people surrounding them started to record. And here are the few moments of the first interaction between Terrence and Lieutenant Dan.
We get this all figured out?
Took my phone.
Why are you saying all this?
Why am I saying it?
Why are you telling people I'm taking your
my
GoFundMe
TikTok.
money?
You took my TikTok account, which is 500,000 people at the time. What I posted was that you got my GoFundMe money.
So why are you saying I'm taking the GoFundMe money from you? You know that's not true, Jay.
Well, why did you?
You know that's not true. I've been here since every day from day one.
So Terrence is like, bro, I'm not trying to scam you, bro. I've been here since day one. I'm looking out for your best interest. Like, I'm trying to help you. Now, the GoFundMe situation was kind of odd because Terrence started a GoFundMe with his other homie who was working with him and Lieutenant Dan. The GoFundMe was in his homie name. Now, the first 7,000 was in the homie name, and that was able to get withdrawn. But the other 33,000 that was raised, like, they switched over the account to Lieutenant Dan's name. So because they switched over the account to Lieutenant Dan's name, in order for the 33,000 to get withdrawn, Lieutenant Dan would need an ID and a bank account. And he didn't have that at the moment. So the police was getting involved to sort of help him get an ID, but until then, he couldn't get the rest of the 33,000. So Terrence is trying to explain that. Lieutenant Dan isn't really understanding because Lieutenant Dan at this point, the TikTok account was taken away for a day or so. The GoFundMe money ain't here yet. Lieutenant Dan right now is just paranoid, and there's other people around him who are now helping him do things as well. And Terrence has kind of been isolated and thrown out of the pack. So now Lieutenant Dan is now seeing Terrence as a scammer.
Terrence, what did I tell you yesterday? And what I'm telling you now is that when I gave you you took my phone, he added my TikTok, he added my Facebook. Wait a minute, okay? He added this shit to the iPhone, and I thought you guys were giving me that iPhone. And then right before we're leaving, he goes, "Oh, give me that iPhone back." And I had to actually grab it out of his hand and say, "I want to shut down my TikTok," because he now had my account on the freaking iPhone it is. So I went and tried to undo mine, and I don't know that you could get that shit back.
Yeah,
that's why. How did all day today in my bio there was a link to a clothing line that had pictures of my face on shirts? There must have been, I don't know how many of them. I don't know anything about this. I don't know where this came from. Somebody added that shit to my TikTok page.
But you think that he would do it though if he's the one?
Who did it?
But you would think that.
And then the GoFundMe page.
No, but like
Everything that has been done has been for him.
Terrence's reasoning for adding the merch link to the bio instead of the GoFundMe was, we already raised the $40,000 that we asked to raise on GoFundMe, so there's no need to have the GoFundMe link in the bio anymore. So let's replace it with a link for a merch. Lieutenant Dan, understandably, was like, bro, I know nothing about no merch. I want to be, kept in the know of everything that's going on regarding my business, which is fair. Like, it's a fair statement in the argument, but what's not fair is claiming that Terrence did this to scam you when Terrence is doing this to just raise more money for Lieutenant Dan however he can. Now, Terrence was getting a lot of backlash online because at this point, the out-of-context video was leaked, and people were pretty much calling Terrence a scammer, saying Terrence, was trying to exploit Lieutenant Dan and take everything from him. So Terrence made a video, and he spoke his piece on the situation.
All right, guys, I just want to get on here to address the Lieutenant Dan GoFundMe situation, as I received numerous death threats and thousands of hate messages and threats to my family, friends, and loved ones. So I just want to get on here and address everything, as this needs to be settled. When I first saw Joe and met him, his boat was being swept under a bridge, and I was walking home from school, and I saw this guy who looked like he needed help. Didn't know his background, didn't know anything about him, so I went up to him, helped him out, and this is how this whole thing started. It wasn't until a week later, after getting to know him, talking to him every day, is when I made the first video calling him Lieutenant Dan before Hurricane Helene came. It was never supposed to be this whole thing in just one funny video that I posted to my TikTok. People then fell in love with Joe after a few interviews and were begging me to make him a GoFundMe, so that is what I did. The GoFundMe was set at $2,500, and all it was to get him a new boat and maybe some money for some food and a scooter for transportation. It was never supposed to get to where it is now. Joe has a bank account, but no identification and no way to get in the bank. I mistakenly put the GoFundMe under my friend's name as a way to get the $2,500 out quick and give it to him and be done with it. I have done all the research and have reached out to Tampa police, who are willing to help Joe get an ID and expedite this process so we can retrieve the other $35,000 in GoFundMe. I have retrieved all the money that was sent to my friend, and I've gotten $7,000 in cash, and which will I be giving to him today. The rest of the money will be sent to Dan as soon as he gets his bank account information set. I'm sad to see where this has all gone to, and I really hope that this can all be resolved and we can all just move on with our lives.
So Terrence did live up to what he promised. He brought the $7,000 to Lieutenant Dan and handed it off to him in all cash.
I want everybody to see this. $7,000 from the GoFundMe that was granted to my friend Will. Right to Jay.
He's getting his money. He's getting that's the first installment.
$35,000 more that will then, once he gets the right identification, GoFundMe has $35,000 and it's going to be transferred into his name as soon as he gets the right identification.
And now, thank you.
Of course. Let's go. Yes, sir.
Parent. That's right.
Spread the money.
Spread the money? Oh,
Nah.
Yeah, I forgot you know about the payment.
He made things
You know what I
worse.
made? I put it in my pocket.
And after this, Terrence completely wiped his hands of Lieutenant Dan. Terrence said, I'm no longer working with you. He took his hands from out the situation and he moved on with his life. Lieutenant Dan was even caught on TikTok claiming that he told Terrence, yo, man, as soon as the money comes, bro, like, I want to give you 10%. And Terrence wouldn't take the $4,000. Terrence says, no, I don't want no money from you, bruh. I don't want nothing to do with you, bruh. I'm completely done. So it looks like Lieutenant Dan has completely severed the relationship with Terrence.
For the record, when I get paid from Terrence, he's going to get 10%. He got me $40,000. He's going to get $4,000. That's 10%, right? So you can put that out there. But is he going to work? Am I going to work with him again? I doubt it. I'll be honest, I doubt it. But I told him that I wanted to give him 10% when he was getting me $5,000, and he said, no, I don't want it. I'm just keeping it real. That's what he told me. But I want him to take the 10% because he did get me started. He's the one that found me, and whatever his intention was, it doesn't matter because of what happened from it. I'm in a catapult, and he's now no longer in my whatever you want to call the clique or whatever. But that doesn't mean I hate the kid.
It doesn't look like Lieutenant Dan is completely unreasonable. It does look like he's reasonable and he do understand what Terrence did for him. But Terrence at this point is completely done. Like, bro, Terrence don't want no smoke, no pressure. He don't even want to be involved because he understands how this could go horribly wrong. Especially when as soon as the internet thought that he scammed Lieutenant Dan, he was getting death threats. Now, Lieutenant Dan is very confident in himself and where he's going because he's telling Terrence, hey, bro, I'm about to catapult. You're not going to be in the circle no more, but I'm about to catapult. I'm gone. I'm about to skyrocket. But Terrence said, hey, bro, I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm good. Now, a new character, though, unlocked. You see, after Lieutenant Dan, started to go viral, started to get in some type of controversy and drama, his daughter decided to speak up. And his daughter said, listen, this is going to end horribly wrong. Y'all giving this man an obscene amount of cash and fortunes, and all he's going to do with it, man, is use it to self-destruct with bad habits. This is not okay.
Lieutenant Dan was doing just fine without all that money. Y'all TikTok fucking famous people and all that, y'all blowing him up, and he gonna be dead before he can even fucking enjoy that boat and stuff, because look at him. After y'all got a hold of him, and now he's high as fuck on all these videos. Is it just weed? Is it just weed? Yes, I'm his fucking daughter. I'm his daughter, and I've had to keep tabs on that man for 10 years trying to make sure that he's alive, and now he's gonna get all of this and probably end up dead because of it. And I'm really not trying to give it much energy aside from just making sure that he's alive. That's what I try to do. I try to just make sure he's alive and he's good. But y'all are gonna fucking put him in the grave. Put him in the grave early for making him famous and giving him this money and offering him this shit. Like, y'all don't even know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know that man. You don't know him at all. Nobody actually cares for him either. Nobody actually cares. Y'all are just using him to make him famous, make yourselves more famous, make yourself look good.
Regardless of how much you think you like Lieutenant Dan, you don't like or love him more than his own daughter. And she knows the best. She knows what's best for him because she's the one who's been here taking care of him, making sure he's alive for the last 10 years according to her. And she's like, bro, I know this man habits. I know this man. He can't handle fame. He can't handle success. He can't handle all that money at once. It's gonna be bad, right? Because the kick deal was apparently $200,000? No, sorry, a $2 million kick deal over a span of like 2 or 3 years or so. So he's like, bro, I know he can't handle this. So it looks like Adin Ross agreed. And Adin Ross said, listen, bro, after hearing his daughter, after seeing what's going on with him and Terrence, bro, I agree that maybe all of this is too much for Lieutenant Dan. So Adin Ross came out and said, yo, we're not giving Lieutenant Dan the kick deal anymore. We're still going to take care of him. Now, it's unclear if they're still going to get him the $100,000 boat. But as of now, it don't appear that either of that is true.
I'm no longer giving Lieutenant Dan a kick deal, but I'm giving the deal to Terrence. Terrence is going to go around Tampa IRL streaming, and he's going to help out homeless people and help out people that are in need. and we're going to give him a budget every day to go IRL stream and give out and bless people. We still want to help Lieutenant Dan, known as Joe, by giving him a boat, but we also want to make sure that he's staying sober and does it the right way. So I'm giving Terrence the deal. Terrence will have the deal. Terrence will be doing IRL streams around Tampa, giving out money and blessing people. I will be featuring a couple of his streams, and it's going to be God's work. So I'm proud of Terrence. Him and I had a really good conversation. He's a very clear-minded person, and I really do like the guy a lot. So him and I will be working together to help people out as well. And again, we're not giving up on Lieutenant Dan. If he wants to help, we'll help him still. But we're just I'm just gonna put the main focus on Terrence having the deal, and that's that. So if you guys are gonna watch Terrence's kick streams of him going around blessing people, put me in the chat. Hope you guys all follow him.
Adin Ross took away the kick deal from Lieutenant Dan and gave the kick deal to Terrence. Now, some context to this: Adin Ross was communicating with Lieutenant Dan through Terrence. So I'm guessing they built some type of rapport, and Adin Ross felt bad with how Terrence is being left out and how he was treated. Now, Lieutenant Dan's response to this news was, "I don't care, and I'm backing out of the kick deal anyway." So Lieutenant Dan is saying he's backing out of the kick deal. Adin Ross is saying that they're taking away the kick deal.
So the kick deal is done, and it's a done deal. I'm not doing it. Period. Amen. Period. I'm done. I don't need to make money that way. I can make money other ways. And with the gifts that I was given, that's enough money to buy my boat that I wanted to live on, that's all I ever wanted to do, was have a place to live. I didn't know anything about no social media contracts and all this kind of crap. You know what? I ain't like that. I ain't in it for the money. I don't care. Okay? I don't care about the money. I hate.
This is sad because the story that was looking like a fairy tale has turned into a nightmare. And the ending that we all expected for Lieutenant Dan to become the Hawk Tuah girl, get a team around him to turn him into a global superstar, get the kick deal for $2 million and change his family's life forever, it looks like that's no longer in reach. It looks like Lieutenant Dan is probably going to go back to what he was doing before. Now, Lieutenant Dan does have a TikTok he could probably post on, man, but when you don't have the structure and the discipline and people around you telling you exactly what to do and how to do it, bro, as an old man, bro, like, he don't know how to work social media, bro. Like, he don't know what he needs to do to keep this going. So, it looks like this is just another tragic story, man. Hopefully, Lieutenant Dan and the people around him keep him relevant and change his life forever. But, unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen, all right? Y'all let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think, man? Who do you guys think is wrong in the situation? And where do you guys think that things went wrong with Lieutenant Dan? Let me know in the comment section. I'm going to see you guys in this video, right? And if you're still watching, click on this video somewhere on my screen, somewhere here, to find out about the really popular basketball star who got outed for paying another man $17,000 to clap his cheeks. Really popular NBA star, all-star level player, paid another man to clap his cheeks for $17,000. Click on this video here to find out what I'm talking about. I'm out of here, folks. Peace.